available at North Quincy High School. Students vaping is extremely concerning. Kathy will work together with her colleagues to make sure that current policy is updated to include vaping and to ensure families are getting the necessary educational materials and instruction on this continuing issue. Parent communication is vitally important, and Kathy is excited to begin working on the new website for the Quincy Public Schools, brought forward by school committee member Anthony Andronico. Parents and students need an adaptive website to access necessary school information in a simple and timely manner. Finally, Kathy believes it is critical to be accessible to Quincy Public School families. Kathy has a presence on Facebook for many years, helping parents to navigate and find much needed information, and continues to be available by email because she knows how vitally important it is. Kathy also makes it a point to visit PTO meetings or school events such as concerts, cultural, math, or literacy nights in each school each year to touch base with parents, teachers, and the principal. Once again, Kathy Hubley is running for re-election to the Quincy School Committee and respectfully asks for your vote on November 5th. Thank you. Okay, so that's Kathy Hubley's statement. Our next candidate for school committee who's going to speak is Frank Santoro.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Merrymount Association for doing this. This is a nice thing to do. Great place. Quincy's a very nice place, I know, because I left for a while and had to come back. You know, my dad, when I was 5 years old, came over to the Ponset Bridge and thought he was down the Cape. And so we settled in Montclair. He happens to be here. My dad, 94-year-old dad, who's a World War II vet. We also spent our lives in Quincy. We raised our two children. I met my sweetheart at North Quincy High School in the 10th grade, and Linda, she's here, and we also raised our two children, Laurie and Michael, at through the Quincy Public Schools. So we're a Quincy Public Schools family, and during that whole time, they also had children, and we're fortunate to have 4 grandsons. 2 have already completed Quincy Public Schools. And so we're on our way to saying, okay, what do we do with our lives? And I said to myself, I can't just leave. I've been too involved in education. I taught in the Boston Public Schools for 10 years, went on to the Brookline Public Schools for 17 years, and then when the principalship at Central Middle School opened up, I applied, and thanks to Gene Creed, the former superintendent, I was able to become the principal at Central Middle School. And from Central Middle School, the superintendent, Rick Cristofaro, says, you know, I got a good job for you at Quincy High School as we try to change a few things at Quincy High School and and we're fortunate to get $126 million to design a new high school. I'd just like to help out. And so I couldn't pass that opportunity up. And so it's been 42 years in public education where I've really enjoyed myself. Some of the things I've done besides being on the school committee in the late 80s, because when I was teaching in Brookline, I served as the president of the Beechwood Knoll PTO, citywide parent council, a member of the Quincy Park and Recreation Board, a member of the Quincy Arts Lottery Council, a member of the design team for the new and award-winning Quincy High School, an educational consultant for the architect firm SMMA, where we helped build Somerville High School, kind of similar to the things we did at Quincy High. I also was an educational consultant for Fox 25 News for 3 years, and I was able to teach a course on school climate and safety at Eastern Nazarene for prospective principals. I'm currently a board member for the Quincy Asian Resource Incorporation, as well as on the Quincy Art Association. I was the recipient of the Quincy Asian Resource Visionary Award, a recipient of the Richard J. Koch Youth Service Award, a member of the North Quincy High School Basketball Hall of Fame, and most recently appointed by Mayor Koch as co-chair for the History, Art, and Culture Group of the Quincy 400 program that's coming up in the year 2025. And recently just received the endorsement of the Quincy Education Association, which I'm also proud of. So that's a lot of public school education experience. And I've always believed in the philosophy of John Quincy Adams, who said, you know, as a payment for the debt of what the preceding generation has given to you, you should give to the next generation. So that's what I want to do. I want to keep giving to the next generation in my spare time. I have plenty of experience and knowledge, and you have 3 votes on November 5th, and I'm asking for Frank Santoro to get one of them. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And while I'm here, I do need to say, I want to thank our current school committee members because they're doing a great job. I want to thank Emily Lebo, I see her here. I want to thank Paul Bergoli, and Kathy Hubley, who was not here, and Anthony. Congratulations, because you're doing a fantastic job. We have a great school system. It's our city's #1 resource. Thank you.
All right, next we have candidate Courtney Perdios.
Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is Courtney Perdios, and I'm a first-time candidate running for school committee. We started our campaign back in late April, and since then I've knocked on just about 3,500 doors, so I probably knocked on a lot of your doors. I know a lot of you guys out there. So thanks for bearing with me again. You get to hear the speech again. And I thought that since we didn't have a lot of time for you guys to ask me questions, I thought what I'd do is take some of the questions that I've heard a lot indoors and kind of pose those and answer them as if, just in case, if you had those same questions, hopefully I could answer them in that way. So the first question I get is, who are you and what's your background? So I usually start by saying that I live in Ruggles Street in Quincy Point with my husband Steve back there and my 3 kids who are...
Over here.
Over there,
they're over in the back.
Right there, those are them.
Oh, there they are, right there.
And Casey right here is 11, Molly's 9, and Hannah's 8, and they did a great job holding signs for me earlier, so thanks, girls. I'm also a caretaker for my grandmother, who has pretty advanced dementia. She lives at Atrium in Faxon Woods over near my house. So that's kind of my primary family here. And as far as my education and work background, I graduated from Stonehill College in 2001 with a bachelor's degree in English and art. And then I went on to work in magazine production for about 10 years after that. When I had Casey in 2008, I decided that I wanted to start to work part-time and closer to home. So I got a job with Boston University as a part-time editor, which I've done since then, and I teach some adult fitness classes throughout the week, kind of here and there. The next common question I get is, what makes you qualified to be on the school committee? So my family and I are very active in our community. We volunteer with our church. We go to St. Joseph's. We volunteer at our kids' school and in many environmental advocacy groups across the city. We participate in just about every Quincy youth sport there is. I don't know how many games we had this weekend, like 5 or something crazy like that. We attend many events and meetings in our neighborhood and across the city. For the past 7 years, I've been an active PTO volunteer and leader, both at Clifford Marshall Elementary and at Citywide PTO. Through that work, I've learned a lot about our school system, and I've learned how to use my voice to advocate for our students, parents, teachers, and staff. I collaborated with Mayor Cope to get $180,000 worth of new Chromebooks distributed throughout all 11 of our elementary schools to improve the computer-to-student ratio across the city. I led a petition drive to keep 4th graders out of the new Southwest Middle School. I also helped to bring the Community Preservation Act to Quincy, which has funded many of our schools' outdoor classrooms and playground upgrades. So I got into the race because I really enjoy doing all this advocacy work. We would love to be able to work on those issues currently facing our students and our schools in a more formal way. Another question I get often is, what makes you different from the other candidates? I know when you see us at your door, we all probably sound very, very similar in what we're saying. So I want to tell you the one thing that I think sets me apart from the other candidates that are running, and also from the other school committee members, is that right now no one on the committee has younger kids in the system. There are 2 committee members of the 7 that have kids in the system at all, and they're in the high school level. So I have my 3 kids here. I have day-to-day interaction with the system at the elementary and middle school level, and I think that that's something that I could bring to the table that's currently missing. And lastly, sorry, I'm a little nervous, so I read when I get a little nervous, so bear with me a bit. The last question I usually get asked is, what are the things you want to work on? So it's a hard one for me because I want to work on so many different things, but I only have limited time here and at someone's door, so I'm going to tell you the 3 things that I've usually been talking about that I'd like to work on. The first is bringing advanced curriculum to our younger grades. As a system, we start our advanced program in the 5th grade with the lab program, and I believe that those kids needed something earlier on than that. We have a lot of preschool programs that are offered everywhere now, so oftentimes kids come into kindergarten knowing how to read words and sentences and even books. So I feel like we need to do something to address those kids and make sure that we are able to meet every child where they're at from day one. Second issue I'd like to work on is to take a serious look at equity across the system. It's really easy to get caught up in the new school buildings, but it's really equally important to look at our buildings that we have and make sure they're in good repair. I'm going to give you a couple examples, and I'm going to compare two schools that are not in this neighborhood, but it's the ones that I know best because that's where my oldest daughter has gone. She had her 5th grade year at Point Webster Middle School. When she was there, she shared her locker with 2 other kids. Lockers have been on the school improvement plan for Point for 5 years, and nothing's kind of been done about that yet. So in that time, we've also had a brand new Central Middle School and a new Southwest Middle School built, and those children are enjoying new lockers that function. So we need to make sure that we're looking at our whole system and making sure we're putting just as much attention into our older buildings as well. And lastly, the third thing I think that is really important that we need to work on is we need to do something more about vaping. Right now, the discussion has been about mostly around prevention and education of how the negative consequences, which is really good and needed, but we also need to do a little bit more on that. We need to set some policy to keep our kids safe inside the school building, a zero tolerance policy for vaping, which we currently don't have, and I would love to be able to shepherd that along. It's concerning to me because it's not just happening at the high school level, it's also in middle school as well. And we don't have security teams in our middle schools watching out for that. And in our end of the city, 5th grade is in middle school, so it doesn't make me feel really all that comfortable to be having our 5th graders interacting with that. So often before I leave a door, the person speaking with me will say, boy, it sounds like you know the issues, you have a lot of good energy and enthusiasm. So I'm hoping, similarly, it's come across to you tonight that I really do understand the issues we're facing pretty well. My excitement about being part of the discussion has come through to you, and I humbly and respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next school committee candidate is current school committee member Paul Bregoli.
Thanks, Mark. How'd you guys like the first day of fall? I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Growing up in West Quincy, that's where I grew up, obviously, and my parents, Dolores and Lou Bregoli. Mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my father was a professional musician who played the accordion. That's how he put food on the table. My grandmother was Maria. She started Maria's restaurant over in Braintree. I spent a lot of time there and saw how hard she worked, and that's where I got my work ethic from. I did attend Gridley Bryant School, and there I met 2 people who influenced me and guided me and steered me into the field of education. They are Mario Casali and Pat Drew. Tremendous role models for me and for many other students across the city. Those are the people who I looked up to early on. So, as a 16-year-old, I started with the Quincy Recreation Department at the Walton School Playground, and 55 years later, I'm still working for the Quincy Recreation Department because I love kids, and that's been my whole life, my whole career. As a 16-year-old, I met my wife, Carolyn, who I had with me for 20 years before she passed away, 29 years ago tomorrow. But she blessed me with 2 sons, Christopher and Patrick. Christopher is an assistant vice president of State Street, and Patrick is a state trooper for the Massachusetts State Police. Very proud of both of them. And Christopher is also celebrating his birthday tomorrow. 34 years in the Quincy Public Schools. That's how long I was there. I started in Darien, Connecticut, and I went to Greenfield, Mass. Remember my payroll that year was $6,200 a year. That's what we lived on. That didn't steer me away from education, because again, I was passionate about children and I care about them. I spent 34 years, like I said, in the schools. 10 as a teacher, And the last amount as a guidance counselor. I finished my career here at Merrymount School as a guidance counselor. I also coach girls soccer, boys basketball. Still currently coaching in the Quincy Public Schools. When I was a boys soccer coach, we had an issue we were getting creamed by the schools in the Suburban League. And Bill Flynn, former editor of the Quincy Patriot Ledger, Jim McGuire, the Quincy High School soccer coach, and myself sat in Bill's house on Bigelow Street in Quincy Point, and we formed Quincy Youth Soccer. And that's how it started. Us three in Bill Flynn's living room put together Quincy Youth Soccer, and it still goes today. And I saw the inequities of female athletes not getting their due throughout the city, particularly at North Quincy High School. And in 2002, I started the North Quincy Women's Hall of Fame with Simone Koch. And then Mr. Santoro copied me over at Quincy High School. He got one started over there. I retired in 2006 from the Quincy Public Schools. But my passion for children, my passion for education continued. And I could have retired and walked out, been down in Florida for six months and stayed up here, but that's not what I chose to do. I chose to stay with the city and continue my years of service. So the last 8 years I spent on the school committee, and I think I've done a pretty good job. Just to review a couple of things I've done. There's a commercial on TV is, what does the dishwasher do? Well, what does a school committee person do? I'm just going to list a couple of things that I feel like I'm pretty proud of, that and I want to run on my record. Academic standards. Athletes, when I came into the school system, could fail 2 subjects and still play sports, and I thought that wasn't good enough. So I spearheaded the effort to make that a 1 failure, and then have 2 progress reports every term for athletes, and that's still in place. Health education. We had no health educators at the high school level when I came in, and I pushed for that, and now we have health education at both North Quincy and Quincy High School. I talked to one of the health educators last night, and they are doing some work on vaping. He's already taught 3 of his health classes, information on pros and cons of it. There are no pros, but he's already working on it. Non-resident students, I pushed to get another person in there to check on residencies, and that's still in place. We had 2 before, now we have 3. I also asked the superintendent to follow up with students who are already in the system, so when they transition to the next school, that we send a letter to their house. And if it returns, it means they're not there at the address they said they were at. And we've been able to weed out some of the people who don't belong in our school system, who cost us $15,000 apiece. Athletics, we now have more offerings at middle school. We have tennis, we have wrestling, we have track, cross country, volleyball, and I'm trying to get basketball and soccer back in middle schools. School buses, we're antiquated, and when we got a chance to get new ones, I asked to have the new buses have storage facilities underneath so the kids would have backpacks sitting beside them on their rides to and from. We're getting another new school bus this year, and again, that's going to be equipped with a storage facility underneath. I talked to Mayor Koch and to Mike Drakey about panic buttons, because safety and security is probably the thing that when we send our kids to school, we want to make sure they're safe. Well, we didn't didn't have anything at the main doors to alert anybody about possible issue at the school. So now we have panic buttons installed at every school facility at the main door. That's a $23,000 grant that was gotten by the mayor and Mike, but it was a thing that I had initiated. Coming up this September is going to be late Labor Day, and I'm asking my colleagues on the school committee to take a look at, for this just 1 year, to take a look at starting school before Labor Day, so that we wouldn't be going until late June in case we had snow days. And finally, again, I think experience matters. Again, I've dedicated my whole life, 55 years, to children, and I want to continue that service to them for the next 4 years. So I ask just for one of your votes on November 5th, so that I can remain on the school committee and then finally retire. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to shift gears over to our counselor.